talk to you about a new project that we're working on, me, Rachel, and Asher, and it's called Zatech.
All right, so I've gotten this question a few times about the name. We couldn't come up with a good name, so we really just Google translated task until we found something that was cool. And task is Zatech in Croatian, so that's the name. It's an Android application that's for project management, for both long and short-term projects, and really the goal is to be as flexible as possible. So users can put in as much or as little data as they would like, and it will schedule their tasks on a daily basis.
This is a list of the things that we want to have done before we call a version 1 completed. We want to have, well, I mean, you guys can all read. And there's only a few things left that we need to do before we can release our version 1 to the App Store, and you guys can all use it and tell us what's broken about it and what features you want to see.
So at least for Asher and myself, we done no Android development whatsoever. So we had to start out learning XML, making buttons, basic Java on click listeners. So this is like my very, very first where I had like just a big button and some text box. But now we have relatively pretty pages. They switch, they collect all the data, and I don't know what you got.
Yeah, so far we've created all of the basic activities, the add task, view tasks, view schedule tasks, and change your profiles. We've built a database that will save all your stuff. It's a SQLite database that's handled on the phone. And that if you want to go in and change it, there's a task class with an enumeration of all the different elements, and that automatically generates the database table, so you never actually have to touch the database if you want to modify it or use anything. We've also begun working on sending notifications to users. Like you have a planned task and you have a time that you want to start it. You want your phone to buzz and tell you, hey, wake up. You should not be sleeping at 12:30 a.m. You should be working on this new project to teach kids how to learn how to program via the web. Or you should figure out, why does Pandora open when I'm trying to play Words with Friends in Africa?
That's a feature you should be listening to music too.
And all of that nicely fits together, and you can easily switch between pages. And what we're currently working on is to view what tasks you have to work on today. It's like if you click on a page, you see, okay, these are all the things I have to work on today. Like I said before, sending notifications to alert you of the project you need to work on, and checking for data consistency so that when you look at the start and stop time, it doesn't say like Fred. Because, you know, Fred o'clock is a great time, but not what I want to use to schedule my daily activities.
And so I've kind of been working on the scheduling algorithm in the background, and some of the goals that we're trying to incorporate is making sure that across your calendar, we don't want you to be working completely, all your tasks in one day, and then the next 4 days you have nothing to do. We want to normalize that so you're working on certain tasks for certain hours per day, and that entire week is pretty straightforward. We want to prioritize tasks with closer deadlines, so obviously if something's due tomorrow versus something's due next week, you want to make sure that you get the stuff due tomorrow first. We also want to allow the capability for long-term and infinite deadlines. That's actually more difficult than I thought it would be, because you need to figure out how much time to allocate to it, and we're trying to keep track of how much progress you've done on it. So if you're slacking on your progress on a certain task, then you want to schedule more time for that. But on infinitely long tasks, what's more time? What does that mean? So that's a little bit of a challenge. We also want to incorporate it with the Android calendar. We're not trying to make a calendar app. We don't want to redo all of that. So we're trying to use the API calls that are built into the Android calendar and try to use that to incorporate our tasks and do our scheduling and notifications, etc. So thank you. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
With the normalizing of the tasks, are you taking into account unforeseen problems? So say you schedule it so that you work on problem 2 hours a week, and so 4 days out of the 5 days, on the 4th day, you find out, oh, well, if I started this if I had finished this 2 days ago, I would have realized about this problem that I now need to spend my entire rest of the day and fix it.
Right. So that's something we've definitely thought about, and we're hoping to incorporate. We want to put in some sort of buffer. So if a task is due in a month, we want you to kind of schedule it so that it's done in 2.5 weeks, right? And then, because we know people like to procrastinate. I mean, nobody here does their projects exactly on time. Nothing goes on time, on budget ever. So,
sorry, there was a while back when I started looking into venture capital to start a company, and the idea is that were thrown at me was, okay, well, you need to figure out how much you're going to pay yourself, how much you're going to pay everyone else, how long it's going to take, right? Multiply all those values together to get an amount of money that you need, then multiply that by 3 because you estimated wrong, right? So if you just multiply, maybe it can be a checkbox or a setting saying like, oh, I need to work on this for 2 hours. Like, no, you don't. You need to work on this for 6 hours. You have no idea what you're doing. So that way, after you get to your 2-hour deadline, you're like, okay, I've hit this problem that I think I need to hit. Oh, thank God I have 4 more hours left to finish this.
the algorithm actually does take into account that people lie about how much time a project does take. So there is a buffer in there. The deadline is kind of the most important thing in the algorithm, but the hours to completion is much more flexible. And part of our user preferences are how you'd like to work. You know, are you a procrastinator where you'd like to push everything towards the end? Do you want it spread out? Do you want it to do everything in the beginning and get as many tasks as you can done early enough so you maximize free time later on? Those are some preferences we'd like to incorporate later on. Right now, we're just kind of going from even, making sure everything is as normalized as possible, but in the future, we'd like to incorporate that.
If you do plan on doing a study for procrastinators, make them do everything early on. Everyone just doing that.
Right.
That would be the purpose of having the option in there.
With procrastinate, right. So it's how much, do you want your program to do what you tell it to do, or just do what you want it to do?
You just have like the radio button, if you click it, it uninstalls that tag.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I was, feature that might be nice is like, say, like, don't touch Sundays, like that, or don't touch Wednesdays, like let that be maximum free time.
Right.
Or something like that.
So there are certain preferences, like, some people like to wake up at 8 in the morning and get things done. Some people like working on projects for Africa at midnight, I guess. So that type of user preferences definitely has to be in there. We do have certain times, like, do you want to sleep? That's probably a nice thing to schedule in there and not, interrupt that. So those are the kind of preferences that we're also going to incorporate. But that's a good idea to switch with the weekends and stuff.
If you put in settings that say, no, I don't want to sleep, it'll direct you to your nearest cocaine dealer.
Jay.
What happens if, like, you, say it's, a couple days before spring break, and I put in, that I would, have, like, all these assignments and stuff, and it schedules them, and then I go back home to, like, California, and I lose a bunch of hours, right? Yeah, a bunch of hours. What? Times change. Times change. What, is that?
Well, so everything's calculated in UTC at the moment. All our calendar tasks and events are. So Google Calendar, the one that's on your phone, does everything in UTC and then converts to your local time zone when you're viewing. So because of that, I guess you would lose a few hours, and your plane traveling task would take account of that, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
If you obviously are the one entering in all of your own personal tasks.
Right.
But it might be an interesting or a nice feature to be able to transmit tasks or send those tasks. So say you work somewhere and you just there's a project that you have at your job and you're like, okay, here's the task. Let your phone figure out what you need to be working on. Mm-hmm. Or you have a group activity that your friends want to do. They send, all right, here's the time. And then it'll just populate your calendar.
So to solve that problem, like Nick was saying earlier, we don't want to reinvent the calendar. The Android has a nice calendar app, and it has a nice feature of syncing with Google Calendar. So if you want to do something like that, you and your group would have some kind of shared Google Calendar, and you can add a task to ZataTac, and that will actually fill it into your Google Calendar that you have shared with your teammates. And then everyone can see it. And then on their ZataTac schedules, it'll pull it in from Google Calendar and it'll appear as a task on their list. Does that answer your question?
If you did it that way, how would the settings for being a procrastinator not work, since it's already being turned into tasks.
Hopefully, if you did it that way, you'd be setting things like deadlines. So I would work on part A, like I have to build the microcontroller and then you have to build the circuit board. You say the microcontroller has to be done by, December, and then the circuit board has to be done by November, right? So you get a deadline from Google Calendar, which gets imported into ZataTac, and then whatever scheduling algorithm you have set for you will actually put in the physical hours that you need to work.
We're out of time. So.
Yeah, you're using multi-time, right? So it's some kind of good.
Yes.
Good idea.